Hey there, friend. So, today we are going to talk about rest. Definitely not a romantic, glorious topic, but rest is not only essential for our well being, but also a key part of being productive and being successful as a business owner, homeschool mom, all the things. So we're going to dive into how I schedule daily and weekly rest and practical ways that I found that to make it a reality even in challenging seasons. So if you've ever felt like rest is a luxury you can't afford, I really hope that by the end of this episode, I have changed your mind. So let's get started. You are listening to Homeschool Moms in Business, where I help homeschooling moms gain clarity and create effective, systemized business plans around their creative passions, empowering them to confidently launch and grow their businesses while only working 10 hours or less a week. I'm Samantha Welch, a homeschool mom and creative business coach who turned my photography passion into a thriving business, all while keeping my schedule manageable and family-centered, and I'm here to help you do the same. So let's talk about why rest is a non-negotiable for me. This is not something that I have been really good at. Honestly, not even in the last year, but in the last few months is when I've really started taking it a lot more seriously. So rest isn't just about physical recovery. It is also about renewing my mind, my heart, my spirit. And as a busy mom juggling the homeschooling and business and home and our farm, I often feel like I need to earn rest by being productive enough first. And so I will strive and do and everything and continuously work on this never-ending to-do list just so I can feel like I've earned the right to relax and rest. But here's the truth. Rest isn't a reward. It is a necessity. It's where clarity, creativity, and problem solving actually flourish. So I'm actually a better person when I prioritize rest. Daily rest, even just a few moments to pray, reflect, and to plan, helps you stay grounded and focused on what truly matters. Weekly rest, like a Sabbath, gives you the space to recharge and spend quality time with family and to reflect on your progress. So for me, I am now dedicating Sundays as a no work day. That's the day where I'm going to fellowship, church, reconnect with God, reflect on the week, what God has done for me, have good conversations, friends over. It's just going to be a day to recharge and to not think about work or schooling or anything at all. And even if you're in a season where rest feels impossible, like you're caring for little ones, or even if you're lacking support at home, it is achievable to have some sort of rest. And rest doesn't have to look perfect, and it doesn't have to look the same for all of us. It can really be just more of those small moments during the day or a quiet hour once the kids have fallen asleep, if they're taking naps still. The key is just making it intentional. So one of the biggest lessons that I've learned is that rest allows us to work smarter, not harder, which is something I absolutely love. I love being more productive and making the most of my time. When you limit work hours and you prioritize tasks, you create space for rest, which makes the time you do spend working far more effective. So I'm a little bit of a nerd and I absolutely love the science of the brain and how all this stuff ties in. So bear with me if this doesn't interest you, but I am going to talk about a little bit of some studies behind rest, because I think that for me, that's what really helped shift my mindset on that and to see how this is something that's actually really good for me and my family. So studies from Harvard Business Review have shown that taking regular breaks improves focus and decision making. And the brain operates more effectively when it alternates between periods of work and rest, which is super interesting. Additionally, another study published found that individuals who take time to rest and reflect are better at solving complex problems and generating creative solutions. So, rest isn't just beneficial, it's essential for peak performance. At the beginning of this year, I didn't account for rest at all. I was still in the very much the productive, get it all done mode. And it wasn't until about halfway through this year, and honestly, just like the last 3 or 4 months, that I have kind of come to grips with this idea. There were things that happened, like moving to our 40-acre farm, adding my niece to homeschooling. Those were major changes that totally threw me off balance. And then I just tried to push through them with unrealistic schedules like I had always done, which only made things worse. And this experience was one of the big reasons that I created the 10-hour work week at all, because I wanted something to help me have a sustainable schedule that prioritized rest and focus and things that were actually important to me. And then I was like, oh my goodness, I can do this, and then I can help other moms do this as well, because I can't be the only one. So let's get down to some of the nitty-gritty, because though I like a good mindset shift and a good thinking about why we should do something, I am also a practical tips girl. So I have got 6 practical tips to help us really get into a state where we can kind of relax and refocus, but not actually lose momentum and feel like we're just kind of lazing around, if you will. So here are some ways that I have incorporated this into my daily routine and have in fact noticed a huge difference in just how productive I am, even in some of my most busy seasons. So the first thing that is a total non-negotiable for me is I start my day with intention. So I always begin my mornings with prayer, with listening to God's word, with reflecting on yesterday and what God has done for me. And even just doing this for 10 to 15 minutes can really, really set me up for just such a better day. And for me, mornings before my kids wake up are the perfect time for me to do this quiet time. But if for some reason your kids wake up with you, maybe you could do something like put a 15 to 20 minute morning show on for them, or something to where you can just kind of have that intentional moment. The second thing is something that's been super hard for me is limiting my to-do list. And don't throw things at me yet. Just hear me out. But limiting my to-do list has been such a lifesaver. So I have started where I'm just focusing on 2 or 3 key priorities each day, instead of just overloading my schedule with just all sorts of almost busy to-dos. Too many to-dos just can be super overwhelming, and you're not even really productive at the end of the day, because all you've done is just accomplish a little here and a little there, but you haven't really done anything that moves you towards what's important in your goals. When you're realistic about your goals, you can create space to finish your work and to rest without guilt. So just really focus on what are actual priorities for me. And a priority may just be like just homeschooling and working on one thing, and that's it. So that has really helped me in order to just stay focused and to quit having it to where my mind is jumping around to 100 different things in a day. And then making it to where I have limited brain power to do what's actually important. The third thing, and this is something that I am actually still working on, but have made a commitment to fully do, is committing to a weekly Sabbath. This is setting aside 1 day a week to fully disconnect from work, school, house things. And for me, this is going to be on a Sunday, because Sundays are dedicated to church. We usually have friends over for an after church meal, and then we have this like good porch sitting, coffee, fellowship, deep conversations. It's just such a full day of just recharging and kind of letting the cares of the world go and just enjoying the gifts that God has given. And so this has been such a game changer for me, and just being able to start my week fresh and just revitalized. And if a full day is not feasible for you, then just start with a few hours and gradually build from there. I think you'd be amazed at how recharged you will feel. Also, if you want to learn more about my study on the Sabbath and why I am committing to it and why I think it's super important, you can actually go and visit my other podcast, the Woman of Courage podcast, and I did a whole episode on the Sabbath and why I am starting to do that. So if you're interested in that, I really encourage you to go listen. The fourth thing is adapt rest to changing seasons. Seasons are such a huge part of life, and so we have to be realistic with what's in our season. So if you're in a season with little ones or limited support, rest may look a lot different than what I've described for me. So you could do things like use nap time, playtime, early mornings, or just find pockets of quiet. If needed, just communicate your need to family or friends, or find a small way to trade responsibilities for moments of peace. So in other words, if you have another friend who is also struggling with this, maybe you guys can do it to where one day a week she watches all the kids and the next day you watch all the kids, or something like that where you guys can both have a little bit moments of rest. And if that's not realistic, then you know what? No shame by putting on show for your kids or allowing them to do some sort of activity that gives you just a moment of rest. And believe me, as a mom, I understand that it is hard to find those moments, but I really, really encourage you to just do like a look in your life and see where can you kind of fit that in. The next thing is I want you to reflect without criticism. So at the end of the week, review your week. Like actually look and see what worked, what didn't work. Just use this time to learn and adjust your approach without judgment. Realize that the week is already gone. There's nothing you can do about it. Like it was what it was. We can either be upset and kind of like move into ourselves and just kind of feel that regret or guilt, or we can actually look at it from a more logical and say, okay, that didn't obviously work for me. This didn't support what I think is important. How am I going to remove this or change this? And remember that all you got to do is become 1% better every day, and it adds up to a huge difference. So don't beat yourself up. Just look at it and then adjust. And growth, I have seen a lot how growth comes from reflection and not me being perfect. Because there is not a day where I am going to be perfect, but there is always something that I can reflect on where I can say, oh wow, that really worked, or oh well, that needs to go. The last and final thing, which I think is super important and will help us stay in kind of that positive mindset and encourage us to continue with rest, is to celebrate small wins. When I actually take time to acknowledge the progress, what God has done for me in a week, how far I've actually come, whether it's a big project that I finished or whether it was just simply maintaining some sort of consistency and routine, when I celebrate those wins, when I look back and I say, wow, this was actually a really, really good week, then it reminds me of what is working. It reminds me that, hey, you know what? Even if it wasn't maybe like the most quote unquote productive week, it was still a good week. And if I find myself staying in that more positive mindset, that is kind of a form of rest for me, because I have a really bad tendency of going down the depression hole. And so I have found that staying very consistent with celebrating wins, with really just calling out the faithfulness of God in my life, that the small things, that has helped me a lot with maintaining kind of a restful spirit and then being able to actually accomplish even more, because when you're joyful and happy, then you have more energy and motivation. So I felt like this was a really appropriate episode at this time of year because we're going into the mid-December and we have Christmas right around the corner, and I know that like me, you are probably starting to think about next year and what your plans are and what your goals are, what you want your schedule to look like. And I wanted to encourage you that as you plan for the new year, remember that rest is such a vital part of your strategy. That you don't have to plan everything perfectly or have it all figured out. Resting means that you're laying a strong foundation for intentional growth and success. And if you like to have homework or you want to just like really dive a little bit more into this, then whenever you're listening to this, go ahead and take this next week and take time to reflect on what has God done in your life, to write down or speak out and celebrate your wins, and to remember to give yourself grace for what didn't go as planned. And then, because I would love this so much, hop over onto Instagram and share one thing that you're grateful for with me. And that would just totally make my day. And if this episode has encouraged you, I would love for you to leave a review and to share it with another mom that you know could use this as well. So anyway, thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I hope that this was such an encouragement and just gave you like some practical steps to start incorporating something that we tend to take for granted when we're thinking about being productive and doing what we need to do. So I really hope that you embrace rest as part of your routine and you let God work in the stillness and guide your steps. I hope you walked away from this episode inspired to go and implement these things into your life and business. Remember to head to the show notes to get any links, guides, or discounts that were mentioned. And while you're there, leave me a 5-star review. Your feedback is the only way that I know you're enjoying and finding this podcast helpful. Until next episode, remember, it's those small daily steps that build big dreams.